Hello everybody, thank you for joining me and I hope you're doing well. Today's Omid is Makkos Tractate Masechet Daf 11, Omid A. The Gemara rejects this parallel. According to the opinion of Rabbi Eliezer, everyone agrees that he holds that the priesthood is voided. When they disagree, it's according to the opinion of Rabbi Yeshua. The one who says the priesthood is dead holds in according to the straightforward understanding of the opinion of Rabbi Yeshua. When the one who says the priesthood is voided, and also hold in accordance with his opinion, and explain that Rabbi Yeshua states his opinion only there with regard to the temple service, as is written, bless God his property. Let's see in the Hebrew. I'm looking for it. Chilo, and accept the work of his hands, Deuteronomy 33:11. This is understood as a special directive when the temple services have a disqualified priest. The work of his hands is accepted, see Rashi. According to the opinion that his priest is negated, although his service is accepted, his personal status as priest is retroactively negated. According to the opinion that the priesthood died, since his temple service is accepted after the fact, his priesthood is not entirely negated. The term chedo interpreted homiletically to mean that even the offerings of those disqualified from temple service due to flawed lineage, halalin, are accepted after the fact. But here, with regard to the status of the priest, even Yeshua conceded that the priesthood is voided retroactively. The Mishnah teaches, if the verdict of a murderer was decided at the time when there was no high priest, and likewise in the cases of one who unintentionally killed a high priest, and in the case of a high priest who killed unintentionally, the unintentional murderer never leaves the city of refuge. And one who is exiled may not leave the city at all, even if the Jewish people require his services, and even if he is a general in the army of the Jewish people, like Job Zeruiah, he does not leave the city of refuge ever. Rav says, Job made 2 errors at that moment, when he fled from Solomon, as it is written, and Job fled from the tent of God and grasped the horn of the altar in 1 Kings 2:28. Let's see that in the footnote. What errors did he make? As related in the book of Kings, see 1 Kings 2:5-6, on his deathbed, David commanded Solomon to make certain that Job would be executed for killing 2 generals of the army, Abner, son of Ner, and Amasa, son of Jether. He erred in that only the top of the altar provides refuge, and he grabs its corners. Moreover, he erred that only the altar of the eternal house, i.e. the temple, provides refuge, and he grabs the altar at Shiloh. Abai said, it is with regard to this that Job also erred, as the altar provides refuge only for a priest who has the roof of the altar and his service is in his hand, and Job was a non-priest. The altar functions like a city of refuge in providing protection for an unintentional murderer. Therefore, in the case of an unintentional murder protected by the altar, if the believer killed him, he is liable to be executed. Only the roof of the altar of the temple provides refuge, and only a priest in the midst of his temple service. It does not provide refuge for a non-priest, or for a priest who is not in the midst of his service, and for a priest who is on the roof of the altar who is not on the roof of the altar but standing adjacent to it, or for one grasping the horns of the altar, one protected by the altar, does not remain there, but instead is provided with an escort to accompany him to a city of refuge. Each provision applied to an unintentional murderer liable to be exiled. One fleeing the king, who seeks to have him executed for sedition, or one fleeing from the court that issued a provisional edict to execute him is prevented by the altar, even if he is a non-priest. In that case, he is removed from the altar only if he was forewarned, tried based on the testimony of witnesses, and sentenced to be executed. Rabban Sefer Nazich and Hilchot Nefesh Shmirat Nefesh 5:12-14. Appropriate errors, the Gemara cites that Reish Lakish says, the angel of Rome is destined to make 3 errors. As it is written, who is it that comes from Edom, with crimson garments from Bozrah in Isaiah 63:1, which is a parallel for God's arrival after killing the angel of Rome in Bozrah. The angel of Rome will err in that it is only the city of Bethsaida that provides refuge, and he's exiled himself to Bozrah. He will err in that he provides refuge only for an unintentional murder, and he was an intentional murder, and he will err in that it provides refuge only to a person, and he is an angel. And the Gemara resumes its analysis of the Mishnah. Rabbi Abahu says, city of refuge is not given for the purpose of burial. Cities of refuge are Levite cities. Additionally, all the other Levite cities serve as cities of refuge. The only difference being that the other Levite cities provide refuge only if the murderer enters the city deliberately. See 10b. Levites who live in cities of refuge are buried neither in the cities nor in the environments delineated in the Torah, which total 3,000 cubits in each direction. Sefer Zerayim, Hilchot Shemitah V'Yovel 13:3, and Sefer Nezichah was Shemir and Nefesh 7:12. Unintentional murders within them. This is written with regard to the Levite cities, and their open land should be for their cattle, and for their property, and for their beasts. Chayitim, Chayosam, Numbers 35:3, from which it is derived. For life, l'chaim, they are given, but not for burial. Even Levites who reside in a city are buried beyond the open land surrounding the city. The Gemara raises an objection to this from the misinterpretation of the term that he fled there in Numbers 35:25, from which is derived, there shall be his dwelling, there shall be his death, there shall be his burial. The Gemara answers, a murderer is different. The reason is that there is a Torah edict that unintentional murders are to be buried in the city of refuge. By contrast, if it was not permitted for Levites to be buried there. Furthermore, the burial of murderers there is temporary, as the remains would be returned in the ancestral burial plot after the death of the high priest, the Meiri, as the mercy one revealed concerning him that he is to be buried there. That does not apply to the other residents of the city. The Mishnah teaches, just as an unintentional murder is admitted to the city of refuge, so he is admitted to its outskirts, located within the Shabbat boundary. And the Gemara raises a contradiction from a Braita with regard to that which is written concerning the unintentional murder, and he shall dwell in it, Numbers 35:25, from which is inferred in it, not within its boundary. Abai said this is not difficult. Here the Mishnah is referring to an unintentional murder being admitted to a city, which provided refuge for the blood. You may not kill him there. There the Braita is referring to a place where it is permitted for the murderer to dwell, within the city itself and not on its outskirts. While the unintentional murderer is admitted anywhere within the boundaries of the city of refuge, he must dwell within the city itself. Sefer Nezichah was Shemir Nefesh 8:11. The Gemara asks, why is it necessary to state that the murderer may not dwell on the outskirts of the city? Then derive that halacha from the fact that one may not render the field of a Levite city an open space. The land of the Levite cities may not be reclassified as land of the open space adjacent to the city, nor may the land of its open space be appended to the city. Similarly, the land of the open space of the city may not be reclassified as part of the city field, nor may land of the field be reclassified as open space. Halacha applies to other cities in Eretz Yisrael as well. According to the Mishnah Tractate Arichan 33b, from Sefer Zerayim Hilchot Shemitah V'Yovel 13:4-6. The provision of the Levite cities, which includes the refuge, are detailed in the book of Numbers chapter 35, where it states that there is an area measuring 2,000 cubits beyond the city walls appended on all sides of each city. 1,000 cubits closer to the city serves as open space, and no door no field may be established there. The 1,000 cubits farther from the city serves as the city's field, where trees are planted and other agricultural activities undertaken. Since the measure of the field and the open space termed by Torah law, it may not be altered. Nor an open space field, nor an open space part of the city, nor a city and open space. Apparently, the outskirts of the city, whose status is that of an open space, may not be utilized for residential purposes. Rav Sheshes said it is necessary to state this halacha only for tunnels. If a murderer excavated a tunnel on the outskirts of the city, although he did not violate the prohibition against ruining the fields of the city, he may not reside there based on halacha by Torah law that he must reside inside the city. The Mishnah teaches a dispute between Rabbi Yossi Aglili and Rabbi Akiva with regard to a case where the unintentional murderer emerged beyond the Shabbat boundary of the city of refuge, and the blood redeemer found him there. The sages told that it is written, and the blood redeemer finds him outside the border of the city of refuge, and the blood redeemer murders the murderer, he has no blood. Numbers 35:25-37. It's a mitzvah for the blood redeemer to kill him, and if there is no blood redeemer available to fulfill this mitzvah, it is optional for any person to do so. This is a statement of Rabbi Yossi Aglili. Rabbi Akiva says it is optional for the blood redeemer to kill him, and any person is liable for killing him. This is the version of the text according to the Marshal, as otherwise there will be no clear difference between the two Tanaim with regard to people that are not the blood redeemer. The version cited by virtually all early commentaries is, and any person is not liable for killing him. The reason is that by leaving the city of refuge, the murderer has rendered himself subject to being killed, and even making him concede there is no liability for killing him. The Gemara analyzes the Mishnah. What is the reason for the opinion of Rabbi Yosef Glili? He says, it is written, if the blood redeemer murders the unintentional victim, unintentional murderer has no blood. It states, and the blood redeemer murders the murderer, indicating that it is a mitzvah. And Rabbi Kiva says, it is written, the blood redeemer shall murder. In the imperative, it merely states the blood redeemer murders, which is merely relating the scenario under discussion. On a relation, the Gemara cites Mazuta Bar Tovia says, the Rav says, in a case of a murderer who emerges beyond the boundary of the refuge, and the blood redeemer found him then killed him, the blood redeemer is executed for killing him. The Gemara asks, in accordance with whose opinion did Rav issue this ruling? He issued it neither in accordance with the opinion of Rabbi Yosef Glili, who maintained that there is a mitzvah to blood redeemer to kill him, nor in accordance with the opinion of Rabbi Kiva, that the blood redeemer has the option of killing him. The Gemara answers, Rav states this ruling in accordance with the opinion of that Tana, as it is taught in a bite that Rabbi Eliezer says with regard to the verse, and the murderer shall not die until he stands before the congregation for judgment, in number 35:12. When must the verse state this? It is necessary, since it is stated, and the blood redeemer finds him, and the blood redeemer murders the murderer, number 35:27. One might have thought that the blood redeemer may murder him immediately. Therefore, the verse states until he stands before the congregation for judgment. The Ran Sanhedrin 45a explains that this halach applies to an unintentional murder as well. If he leaves the city of refuge and the court sentences him to death for doing so the blood redeemer is first in line to kill him. Rabbi Hanan explains that Rabbi Eliezer is referring to an unintentional murderer who was not yet been sentenced to exile by the local court, and it is only in that case that the blood redeemer may not kill him. Once the court sentences him to exile, Rabbi Eliezer concedes to Rabbi Yosef Glili and Rabbi Kiva that it's permitted for the blood redeemer to kill him, or perhaps it is even a mitzvah to do so. From which it is derived that the blood redeemer may kill the murderer only after he is convicted in court. Marazuta ben Tovia says that Rav says that the blood redeemer is liable if he kills the murderer before he's convicted. The Gemara asks for Rabbi Yosef Glili and Rabbi Kiva with regard to this verse, until he stands before the congregation for judgment. What do they derive from it? The Gemara answers, that verse is necessary for that which is taught in a bride that Rabbi Kiva says. From where is it derived in the case of the Sanhedrin that saw one kill a person? Sanhedrin sha'o echa shaharag. An intentional murder is not executed by witnesses and onlookers until he is taken to court for trial and sentenced to death. The halacha applies to all those liable to be executed. Rambam says in the Zichner, would say Cheshmeres and Efforts 1:5. A person that they may not execute him until he stands trial in a different court. It is derived from a verse, as the verse states, until he stands before the congregation for judgment, meaning until he stands before a different court. Since they themselves witnessed the murder, they are no longer capable of considering the possibility that he may be innocent. The sages taught in a Braita with regard to the verse, and if the murderer emerges, Yotze, and the blood redeemer murders the murderer, he has no blood, number 35:26-27. I have derived only that the blood redeemer may kill the unintentional murderer if the unintentional murderer murdered from the city intentionally. From whence it derived that the same applies if he murders unwittingly. It is derived from the verse, as the verse states, if Yotze, the double form of the verb, serves to teach that this halacha applies in any case where the unintentional murderer emerges from the city of refuge. But isn't it taught in Braita with regard to unintentional murderer emerging from the city of refuge unwittingly, and one who kills him intentionally is executed, and one who kills him unintentionally is exiled? According to the version of the text, the reference is to one who killed an unintentional murderer who left the city of refuge. If he killed him intentionally, he is killed. If he killed him unintentionally, he is exiled, just in the case involving any other person. The difficulty is that the Braita states explicitly that it's prohibited to kill one who left the city of refuge unwittingly. A Braita statement at the conclusion of the discussion of the Gemara is not compatible with that explanation. Others omit the term one who kills him. Therefore, the text merely reads, intentionally he is executed. According to that version, the Braita is referring to the exiled murderer. If he left the city of refuge intentionally, the blood redeemer may kill him. If he murders unwittingly, he is exiled. The unintentional murderer must return to the city of refuge, and the blood redeemer may kill him only if he forewarns him and he fails to return to the city. He will kill him to the Riyas. If an unintentional murderer intentionally leaves the city of refuge, he subjects himself to being killed. It is permitted for the blood redeemer to kill him, and anyone who kills him is not liable. If he unwittingly leaves the city of refuge, anyone who kills him is liable to be exiled. According to the opinions of Rabbi Akiva and Abai and the Ketzer Mishnah, see the commentaries on the Rambam, who discuss whether it is the halacha only with regard to one who kills him unintentionally, or if it applies to one who kills him intentionally. I'm saying for the Zichet, I would say Shmir Nefesh 5:10. The Gemara answered, this is not difficult. As a second brisa, it is in according to the opinion of the one who says that we say, the Torah spoke in the language of people, and no halacha is derived from the double form of the verb Yotzo Yetze, as it is merely a rhetorical flourish. And that first brisa is in accordance with the opinion of one who says that we do not say the Torah spoke in the language of people, and the compound verb was employed in order to derive that the blood of the redeemer may kill the unintentional murderer, even if he emerged from the city of refuge unwittingly. Abai said, it stands to reason that the halacha is in accordance with the opinion of one who says the Torah spoke in the language of people, and the blood redeemer is liable for killing an unintentional murderer who emerged from the city of refuge unwittingly, in order to ensure that the ultimate punishment of the unintentional murderer when he emerges from the city of refuge will not be more severe than his initial punishment when he is sentenced in court. With regard to his initial punishment for murder, if he killed intentionally, he is executed. Because unintentionally, he is exiled. So too, with regard to his ultimate punishment, if he emerges from the city of refuge intentionally, he is killed by the blood of a demon. If he emerges unwittingly, he is returned to the city of exile, to exile in the city of refuge. It is taught in one brisa, if in the case of a father who killed his son, his surviving son becomes his blood redeemer and may kill him. And it is taught in another brisa, his son does not become his blood redeemer. In the case of a father who unintentionally killed his son, if his son had a son, the son is the blood redeemer and may kill his grandfather. If the murdered son has no sons, the victim's brothers do not assume the state of blood redeemer and may not kill their father. The father is judged in court and executed and if found guilty. Rambam Sefer Nezicher would take Shmir Nefesh 1:3 5:15. The Gemara suggests, let us say that this brisa which states that his son does become his blood redeemer, in accordance with the opinion of Rabbi Yosef Glili. Since there is a mitzvah for the blood redeemer to kill the murderer, this mitzvah applies equally to a son. And that brisa which states that a son does not become a blood redeemer to kill his father, in accordance with the opinion of Rabbi Akiva, who holds that the blood redeemer has only the option, not a mitzvah, to kill the murderer. The Gemara rejects that understanding. How can you understand it in that manner? According to the one who says that there is a mitzvah for the blood redeemer to kill an unintentional murderer, and according to the one who says that it is optional, it is permitted for a son to do so, doesn't Rabbi Rav Huna say, and likewise the school of Rabbi Shmuel taught, with regard to authentication of the Torah, even if the father is liable to receive lash and be ostracized, a son does not become an agent of the court to flog his father. If one father and mother violate a prohibition for which they are liable to receive lashes, and the son was employed as the attendant of the court, the son may not administer the lashes. Similarly, if it was determined that his parents are to be ostracized, the son may not act as an agent of the court to ostracize them, nor may he strike them or demean them as an agent of the court. This is the halacha even if they are unrepentant and were deserving of their punishment. The exception is one who incites others to engage in idol worship. In that case, the son of the inciter may act as the agent of the court to administer punishment. When Sefer Nezicher, Mamrim 5:14, Shulchan Aruch Yodei 241:5, or to curse him apart from the case of a father who acted as one who incites others to engage in idol worship. As the Torah states in his regard, you shall neither spare nor conceal him, in Numbers 13:9. But the Gemara suggests that the apparent contradiction between the two brises is not difficult, as this brisa which says that the son does not become a blood redeemer to kill his father is referring to his son, and that brisa which says that the son become a blood redeemer is referring to the son of his son, who can become a blood redeemer to kill his grandfather, as the grandson is not required to honor his grandfather as he is required to honor his father in the Mishnah. The previous measure teaches that the halachic status of the outskirts of the city is like that of the city itself, in terms of an unintentional murder being provided refuge there. The Mishnah adds, with regard to a tree that stands within the Shabbat boundary of a city of refuge, whose boughs extend outside the boundary, or a tree that stands outside the boundary. Ilan shehu omen chut latchum. If a tree was situated within the boundary of a city of refuge and its boughs extended outside the boundary, once a murderer is standing beneath the boughs, the city of refuge affords them protection. If the tree is outside the boundary and its boughs extended within the boundary, once a murderer is standing on the base of the tree, the city of refuge affords them protection. Say from the Rambam, say from the Zichan, it would say Shemir Nefesh 8:11. And see the Keter Mishnah there, and its boughs extend inside the boundary stage of the tree, which whether it's considered inside or outside the boundary, in all cases it follows the boughs. And the Gemara raised a contradiction from a Mishnah in Massah Sheni 3:7 taught with regard to the second tithe. Second tithe produce must be consumed within Jerusalem or redeemed outside of Jerusalem. With regard to a tree that stands within Jerusalem and whose bounds extend outside the city wall, or a tree that stands outside the city wall, the bounds extend inside the wall, the principle is halachas ages of any part of the tree that is above the wall and inward is of an area within the wall, and the halachas stages of any part of the tree that is above the wall and outward is that of the area outside the wall. Apparently the trunk does not follow the boughs, and the boughs do not follow the trunk. The stages of each part of the tree is determined by its position relative to the wall. The Gemara rejects the parallel between the cases. Are you reading contradiction between the halacha of second tithe and the halacha of cities of refuge? With regard to the halacha of second tithe, the mitzvah made the stages of the tree dependent on the wall. And with regard to cities of refuge, the mitzvah made the stages of the tree dependent on dwelling. One can dwell in its boughs, one cannot dwell in its trunk. Therefore, with regard to city of refuge, the halacha state of a tree is determined by its boughs. And the Gemara raised a contradiction between the previous brayta with regard to the halacha of second tithe and another brayta with regard to the halacha of second tithe, as is taught in a brayta in Masorot 3:10. In Jerusalem, follow the boughs in determining the state of a tree with regard to consuming second tithe produce, and with regard to city of refuge, follow the boughs in determining the stages of the tree with regard to providing refuge when unintentional murder. Rav Kahana said this apparent contradiction is not difficult, as this brayta is according to the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda, and that brayta is according to the opinion of the rabbis, as is taught in our brayta with regard to partaking the second tithe in Jerusalem. So that's the end of the Omer. Thank you very much for listening, and wish you a good day. All the best. Bye.